Welcome back, awesome action toy fans and subscribers. Not so long ago, I reviewed these rather cool Hiya Judge Dredd figures, Judge Dredd and Judge Death. See top right of your screen now for the link if you haven't seen that review. And I have to say, I was surprised because I haven't been Hiya's biggest fan in the past. They make fantastic looking toys, but often the articulation is not great or there's weak joints. But they did a really good job on these two. Well, today I've got another two from the line that came. I've got Judge Giant, and I've got Judge Fire. I do have more on the way, but they are stuck because some deliveries into Beijing are not being allowed due to COVID. So I would expect them hopefully soon-ish, and they can add them to the gang here. So these two are just fantastic looking figures. Judge Dredd's gun's a bit bent. Also his pauldron comes off here. But I can glue that back on if I need to. Let's get a closer look at these new two. So Judge Giant is basically the same. Just that it's got a different head. It's got an unhelmeted head. And he doesn't have a baton. But otherwise he's essentially the same as Dredd. So his articulation will be the same. Nothing on the back, just the normal information we get on Hiya. So nothing really to look at on that. Now Judge Fire is completely new sculpt. I'm not sure if I like those eyes. I just look at I'm not usually a clear plastic fan when it comes to action figures, but it does look pretty cool. You know, another clear plastic one that I was really keen on, and I didn't think I would be, was that huge one from Thor Ragnarok from Marvel Legends. I'll stick that in the video description for you. He looks pretty cool, and again, there's nothing to speak about or speak of on the back. Okay, so I'm going to unbox Giant and Fire. We'll have a look at them and set them up with Dredd and Death and see what everything's looking like. And if you like this sort of content, please consider joining the Patreon, link in the top right of your screen now. There's also a link in the video description along with some discount codes for some good sites, recommended sites for buying your action figures, particularly 1/18 scale. Okay, back in an instant. Okay, here they are set up, sort of semi-action pose for Giant, and a pretty cool balancing pose there with Judge Flame holding that sort of staff between his thumb and finger and balancing. They do look really good, but not without issues. Now, I'll tell you let's have a close look first and I'll tell you about the issue. So we'll look at the accessories that comes with Giant. So he comes with his unhelmeted head, which obviously we don't get with Dredd, because that would just not be Dredd. Pretty cool. Eyes are a little bit crossed, but it's a very nice head. Now the Hiya system is just a neck that plugs in. So it won't work with most of your modern 1/18 scale action figures you want to swap over. Had to do some customization, some modification to make it work, but it is a good system. It's very natural for head movements, looks pretty cool. Comes with two alternative hands, which we've saw already on Dredd, because basically it's just Dredd with different heads, or different heads. He comes with the same base as Judge Death, and the two H connectors for connecting the bases together. Look in there. The only other difference with Dredd is, if I could bring up Dredd here, is that Giant, his uniform is a lighter, slightly lighter shade. Dredd's is very dark blue, and Giant's is dark blue. And obviously the name is different. Giant on there, it should be, and Dredd on there. Giant, okay. But he looks fantastic, he really does. Very cool. Now, issue I have, the pauldrons on Dredd and Giant could have been done better to give more articulations. They do limit it too much. You know, similar sort of issues we've seen with Joy Toy 1 and 40k stuff. Now, if we come to Flame, I will tell the issue first. He's got all these flame parts which stick onto him, and they ping off so easily. So he's very much so a display piece, not really a play piece. Not that any of you big boys like me would consider playing with little toys. So things do ping off. So if I pick him up. Also, his staff is very top heavy with that flame effect. Let's get a focus going on. So his staff is pretty cool. He comes with the same base that Dredd comes with. It's quite ironic. He comes with the same base as Dredd, and Giant has the same base as Def. He also has 2 alternative hands. I've swapped one hand over already. This is the default right hand here. And I swapped for this sort of rather menacing one here, which I think Def has as well. Okay, so let's get our close look. The face is pretty cool, pretty menacing, but the eyes, the flame out the eyes, doesn't do it for me. Maybe it's the colouring. Pauldrons there. The flame part on his arms come off. The flame part on his legs come off way too easily, and on his ankles come off too. So, you know, you literally can just go doing, and that one's come off. You can go doing, and that one's come off. Doing, doing, and it's just a little bit too easy for my liking. So I think that's just 6 parts that come off in total. I don't think everything else is meant to come off him. So he looks like this without the rest of his flame stuff on. And he looks just basically like, as you would expect, a Def copy, just that he's in clear plastic, different name, and he's got the fire belt here, and obviously the different pauldrons and the head there. In fact, I'll keep him in my hands. I'll use him for articulation. Giant's got the same articulation as Dredd. So let me just zoom out a little bit. Make sure this focuses there. Okay, let's have a look. So, head, there is a forwards, backwards, small side to side, and he can turn one a little bit both ways before the flame effect on his head gets in the way. I like the sort of spine, whatever his bones going through his shoulder there. Shoulder's going to be terrible. To the side, he gets nowhere near 90. Bicep bend, he gets 90 on 1. And he gets 90 on 2, which is pretty good. There is a swivel from the joint, not an actual separate bicep swivel. His wrists have a little barbell joint system, but it's very small, and you know, it's decent movement. Forwards, backwards, up, down, and you can twist. Same on both sides. No trunk. There is waist, which he gets a small forwards, backwards, tiny side to side, and he can turn. Hips, pretty damn good. Forwards, not great. Backwards, not great. You can move or swivel from the thigh joint. Kneecap, really tight. You know, he's got skinny legs, expect that. Feet, there's no turn. There is a decent tippy toe. There is a decent dorsiflexation, but there's no swivel. So, you know, a little bit limited in articulation, but he just looks great. The flame parts that go on him look fantastic, but as I said, they just come off too easily. Now, Giant, you see, he's in a pretty good pose there already, because he's walking with one foot on the toes. If I just zoom into that, we'll get a look at that. So it's a pretty good pose. A lot of action figures that actually struggle to do that. And his toes aren't articulated too. Let's just bring him into the camera. Now, a great thing that he has and Dredd has, because they're the same figure, is that they have the holster by the boot, which is pretty cool. But sticking it in is going to, if you look at the angle of the gun, it means the barrel of the gun will get bent while it's in there, like Dredd's is on mine. Okay, so the head, you'll see, is a really nice articulation system with just that one point in the neck. So really good forwards and backwards, very natural. Side to side is nothing really. The turns are good as well. Shoulders, that far. This one is the one that popped off on Dredd. It goes further on Giant, but much further than that, and it'll pop off. Bicep bend is not fantastic on these because of these elbow pads. If you move them slightly further up, you get almost 90 degrees. You could cut them off, but then it wouldn't be comic accurate. This one maybe I can get a bit further because its pauldrons are not as long. See, this arm is again around 90 degrees. Same wrist, he says, hand comes off when I speak now. Same wrist articulation as in thigh, it's just a barbell joint. But the barbells are very small, so they're actually quite easy to snap, so be careful. He has trunk articulation, so he can turn small forwards, backwards, not really side to side. He has waist articulations to go forwards, backwards, side to side, and turn. Hips, pretty damn good to be fair. Forwards is not great. Backwards is alright. Swivel from the hip joint. Double kneecap, really tight on that. Feet, there's no turn. There's no swivel again. They do get a very good tippy toe. And their dorsiflexation is really good as well. So it's not the best articulation we've seen, but you know, it's decent enough, and you can get some really good poses out of them, all things considered. And because their feet are quite bulky, you can get some nice poses going. Now, I just wish the feet had at least a swivel so I could make the foot go flat there. Pretty nice looking figures. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause this, compare them to some other figures, and then do like a little family shot with the other judges. So back in an instant. Okay, so they're set up. Now with the staff, before on Judge Flame, before I get to the actual figure comparison, there's a gripping hand that's joined at the bottom. What you need to do is this little flame part at the end is you take off, then you can feed this end through his gripping hand and drag it through the back and position it. Then he holds it very securely. And this other hand is not the best hand for this part. Should really swap the other hand, but he does hold it quite well. Let's get an idea of their size. Judge Flame obviously is taller, that big flame coming out his head. So giant, and you see I've swapped his head around. Unhelmeted is about 10.5, which is what they say. To the top of his head is about 11. Top of the flame is about 11.5 to 12 on Judge Flame. So let's get a comparison. I will use first Boss Fight Studios. It's Sigurd, the Wandering Barbarian. I've forgotten his name now, who I'll keep using because he's a fantastic figure. Highly recommended. Link in the top right. And you can see that they are taller than him. Next, I'll use Joy Toy. This is my custom Court of Sanraja figure. It's got a Fortnite head on there and a Sodu box sort of blade on his arm. Again, scale perfectly well and are looking good together, though different universe. They could work in the same universe, I guess. And then lastly, one of my all-time favourite figures is the Acid Rain World, the Renu Sentinel, who I always use. And again, you see they scale very, very well with each other. So the scaling is fantastic to fit in with the other lines, whatever universes and storylines that you want to do in your head. Very, very good indeed. Okay, let's move these non 2000 AD guys out the way, and let's have like a family shot. So we have Dredd and we have Giant here. And the other side, we have Death and we have Flame. I got Fear on the way and I think one or two more others. Very, very cool figures. I think Hiya are doing a great job in this, and it does build up expectations and hope for their G.I. Joe line. The only criticism I'll really give of these is I wish the barbell for the necks, the heads, was similar as other 1/18 scale lines to make it easier to swap and change. And likewise, I wish the heads were slightly bigger, and I wish the hands were more compatible with other lines too. But there are things you can do if you want to mix and match parts. Okay, this is Awesome Action Toys, and I'm signing out saying please like, share, subscribe, consider joining the Patreon. Link in the top right of your link already was shown earlier. Link in the video description. If you haven't checked it out already, you might as well have a look. And it's, join for a month if you want to see if you like it or not. Also, please smash the notification bell icon on the YouTube for this video, and so when I publish new videos, you don't miss them as soon as they come available. I will see you in the next review. Stay happy, keep collecting. Bye-bye.